morning and welcome to the Cherilyn Lee Health Show with my co-host, Melinda Foster, who is
Good
also
morning.
a well-known publicist, and I want to thank her for coming on board as my wonderful co-host for the Cherilyn Lee Health Show.
Thank you so much, Cherilyn. It is such a pleasure to be here again this morning with you. I actually was looking forward to it the whole morning. Really excited about today's show, I have to tell you. Absolutely. And, forgive me, I was looking at the monitor here, and we're getting calls already. We just went on the air. We're getting calls. This is unbelievable. And you're listening to the Cherilyn Lee Health Show today with your host, Cherilyn Lee.
And I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. We have a wonderful lineup of guests for you today, and we're going to kind of jump in because of the fact it's a pretty intense show. My guest today is Dr. Lori Cardellion, and at the top of the hour, we have a wonderful guest, Dr. Chris Shades, who will be with us also. And our topic today, Dr. Lori Cardellion, number one, is a biological dentist and dentist, and she's going to share her background and why she wants to take on this endeavor. And our topic is with not just mercury in your mouth, but also mercury in the environment, and mercury in our fish. So I want Dr. Cardellion to let you take it from here.
Hello, thank you very much. I love being on this show. I love Dr. Lee and her work. How's everybody doing today?
Fantastic.
Good. So this is actually the second time I've done this show. So I think the best thing always is to open up for where we should begin. My particular beginning is when I first went to dental school. I remember sitting in the class where they told me that dental mercury was safe and inert and okay to put in to someone's mouth. And I, as a science and a chemistry background, had no idea why they were saying that. And I just assumed when I got out into practice that wasn't happening anymore. And here we are 20 years later, and 50% of American dentists are still placing dental mercury into patients' mouths. And less than 0.1% of practicing dentists are removing it safely with what we consider to be safe mercury removal protocol. So my beginning is 20 years ago today, but it's still happening. So I feel it's information that needs to, come out, and it's the beginning for everybody in this particular avenue.
Let me ask you a question, Dr. Cardellion, in regards to mercury fillings. It's so interesting because most people, when they go to the dentist, they have no idea what it is. They just figure, oh, well, it's safe because I'm in a dentist's office, right? So and a lot of people will request a mercury filling because they're told, oh, well, it's less expensive than the gold filling or composites and that sort of thing. So some people say, oh, I'll just go for the cheaper way to fix a cavity. But they have no idea that it's really not good for them to actually place that filling in their tooth.
Well, there's also a whole nother level to this question.
Yes.
Because the assumption there is that the patient is asking an educated doctor-dentist for the answer.
Right.
And the patient and the dentist in that scenario are both equally unaware of the mercury that is in mercury fillings. In dentistry, we call them silver fillings because they have the color of silver. There's very little silver in them because silver's expensive, and silver actually doesn't really have the bonding properties that mercury does. Right. Silver fillings are 50% mercury.
Wow.
And the interesting thing upon that is that the other important molecule that's in there is copper. And about 20 years ago, we went to high copper because the copper binds better to the mercury, but what it does is release more mercury into the mouth. So many, many years ago, the silver fillings were actually better for health because the
Really?
more mercury vapors didn't come off.
Mm-hmm.
The high mercury copper fillings that we now use in dentistry release more mercury vapors into the oral cavity. And I do not know a practicing dentist that knows that.
That's incredible. That's absolutely
It really
incredible.
is. And I want you kind of to repeat that. This is Dr. Lee, Dr. Cardellion. And we did have a guest that had called in. And guest, if you don't mind calling back, please. But I want you to repeat that again as far as silver, because a lot of times people tell me there's silver, they have silver and they don't have mercury. So that copper link with the silver, that's so important for people to know. And I just want to say we have a little echo, and I'm being kind of told it's coming from your mic, Dr. Cardellion. It's an echo. I don't know.
I don't know if there's anything I can do about it because it's the only mic I have for the conversation. I don't have another phone to go to.
Yeah, they're saying that to turn it off, the mic, I don't know.
Okay, let me work on that. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, let's keep a speakerphone. To just use the speakerphone, that would be better. Then we won't have the feedback.
Okay, let's try that.
But while you're doing that, I just want to say my how I met Dr. Cardellion was truly a life-saving for myself, and she was truly a godsend. We met actually 2 years ago because the Freedom Health Expo is coming up soon.
Mm-hmm.
And what had happened was I'm writing a book, which Dr. Cardellion is aware, and I was sharing with her I wanted to put a chapter in my book on holistic or biological dentistry, basically holistic dentists. And I wanted people to understand because of my involvement in this arena and not being a dentist, but working with patients for years and finding out the tooth-organ relationship some 20 years ago. And so, and I knew that I had a problem with a tooth in my heart because it was on the same meridian. So when we met, she said, well, why don't you just come on down and let's take care of you. And months had passed by, and after a while, one night at 5 o'clock in the morning, my daughter called me, and she said, Mom, I just had this really bad dream, about you. And she had a dream that I was taken to the hospital, and unfortunately, on the route to the hospital, I didn't make it. I had a heart attack, and in the dream, so I told her, I said, honey, don't worry about it. I'm going to be fine. I met a wonderful dentist, and she's going to be working with me, and I'm going to be meeting her soon. So what had happened was, and I told her, just go back to bed. Everything is going to be fine. And what had happened, 2 hours later, my daughter texts me. I'm sorry, 2 hours later, Dr. Cardellion texts me, and she said, I had a dream about you. You need to call me. And I'm thinking, wow, in the same morning? I mean, this is something serious. So when I called Dr. Cardellion, I started telling her my daughter's dream first. And she said, well, my dream wasn't quite that heavy. You didn't die, but I do see a problem with your tooth-organ relationship as it relates to your heart. So I went to go see her a couple of days later, and lo and behold, there was a really big abscess in the tooth meridian going to my heart. And some people do know my history. Mm-hmm. And so I'm such an advocate on health issues. And my goodness, I can begin to tell you how many people I see on a daily basis with peripheral vascular problems from the mercury, because it can lead to so many problems once it's in the system. And the very worst case I've seen is a person with MS. But so many problems. It's just unbelievable. I saw a patient yesterday that you're going to be probably speaking to that was a referral from another doctor, and he had complaints of a lot of pain in his, actually migraine headaches, and not having his activity of daily living, and he wasn't able to to do anymore because of the pain. And it all started after his root canals and his mercury filling in his wisdom teeth. And this is
Really?
all four, upper and lower.
Wow.
I just want to say that, we have to start when it comes to our health with our teeth first, our mouth first. It's so important. So I'm going to let you take it from there now that we have that sound is much better.
So I'm off my mic and on speakerphone. Are we good?
It sounds better.
Okay, great. So yes, the teeth. It's in the head. the body has a lot of neurology in the head. The teeth are really close to the brain. You can't have infections and toxic metals in the head. It's just that in the model of our medical world and our dental world, we just never thought about it. But all the other professions definitely think there's an energy flow to the whole body. So I sort of wanted to get back to that conversation of the mercury.
Yes.
Because it's important to understand that the dentist is as uneducated about this issue as the population.
That's incredible.
And 30 years ago, we went to state-of-the-art high copper amalgam. And that 30 years ago was 30% more copper in the amalgam, which leads to a 50 times faster release of mercury.
Really?
And nobody knows that. What we're taught in dentistry is 30 years ago, it got really strong and really good, and they polish and they shine. Nobody said anything about the copper addition made the mercury release 50 times faster. We've never fixed that in the profession. I still, when I talk to dentists about this, they don't even know this part. But it's a moot point in this particular avenue of conversation. We are alternative health people. There's nobody that's listening to us that thinks that mercury is okay. Our conversation needs to be with the dental industry. The people that are listening to this, we need to get to the, yes, it's bad. Now what are we going to do about it? Every silver filling in your mouth is 50% mercury. Every mercury filling is leaching mercury vapors at a ridiculously high toxic level, scientifically proven for many, many years. So let's get to what this talk is really about. What are you supposed to do if you're listening and you just hear that your mercury fillings are not healthy for you?
Oh, this is fascinating. We have an email that just came in from a listener, and I'll read this to you. It says, "Dear Cherilyn Lee, thank you so much for this show today. I had a chipped filling after eating some candy on an occasion. In less than 4 weeks, I looked 3 months pregnant. My stomach was swollen up. I went to the doctor. The doctor said I wasn't pregnant. I went to the dentist to get the filling fixed, and they discovered after 3 weeks after the filling was replaced, my stomach went back to normal. They discovered that my stomach had swollen up because the mercury was leaking from my filling." Thank you for informing your listeners, because this is a very important topic that needs to be addressed. Wow.
Right. So this is a great segue.
Wow.
This is a segue, another piece that dentists not understand. There are two kinds of mercury. Dr. Chris Shade is the one that's on he's either listening in or he's also going to be on the show with us.
Yes, he'll be on at the top of the hour.
Yeah, this is the man that taught me everything I know about mercury. I was just a dentist. I went to the International Association of Oral and Medicine Toxicology and listened to lectures about basic science of mercury. The element of mercury that comes off of the dental amalgams turns into a salt, and it is absolutely absorbed into the body. That's the elemental form. The other form is eaten by fish and taken up by plants. Once it's in the environment, that's why fish is toxic with mercury as well. That becomes methyl mercury, which means it's organic mercury. So when you eat a fish that has actually had mercury in it, now the body is getting it through the gut. The gut it's 80% of your immune system is in your gut. And when you
Wow.
have a toxic gut, when you have mercury toxicity, your gut is not working properly. When you have a group of the population that do not have the enzymes to break this down, they're the ones that the dental profession admits are allergic to mercury. I'm going to be the first one to say out loud, there's not a human on earth that's not allergic to the third most toxic chemical on the planet.
Wow.
The body does not have a natural response to mercury. We have a natural pathways to remove the mercury. We have a natural way to detox mercury. That's what Chris Shade teaches. He teaches don't chelate, don't overstress the system.
Yes.
Go with natural way to take this out. Taking it out, whether you eat it in the fish form or whether you breathe it in the vapor form out of your dental amalgams, the body takes it out the same way. The glutathione pathways. That's what you have to make sure is healthy. Chris will talk all about that. My part, being the dentist, is just to say very scientifically, succinctly, and loudly, there is no healthy level of mercury in the body.
Yes.
Amazing.
And Dr. Cardellino, I don't want to cut you off, but I will for a second. We have a caller. Caller, can you state your name and where you're calling from, please? And your question. We have a caller. Okay. Well, we also, let me see, I'm sorry to cut you off. I guess we lost the call right there.
Okay.
Okay.
It always slows me down because I want to be clear to everybody. This is not a holistic dentist opinion. I stay with absolute fact that science forever. Science is science. Now we are in everybody's in agreement. The World Health Organization finally in 2011, their new policy 2011 states there is no level of mercury in the body that's healthy.
That's healthy. Wow.
So the dental industry can't say anymore. It's just a little bit that's coming off the tooth. There's no little bit in this issue.
Let me ask you a question, Dr. Cardellion. Are there certain fish that absorb more mercury than others, or is it just general fish, period, that can because of the components in the ocean and that sort of thing?
In this this is the thing about this issue. I'm a dentist.
Yes.
I went out and studied mercury myself, right? So I'm going back to absolutely yes, right? We know. They say pregnant women shouldn't even eat sushi. They tell you to stay away from tuna. There are some. Mercola.com is a wonderful source of info. But if you are looking at the mercury issue because you know you've got mercury issues, you can't eat fish.
Right.
You can search high and low for a fish that may have no mercury and all that. But fish is contaminated. Our fish sources are highly, highly mercury contaminated because we, as an industry, the dental industry, is not protecting the environment.
Right, exactly.
The ADA states 1% of environmental mercury is from dentistry. The EPA states maybe it's 50%. The World Health Organization states 53% of environmental mercury comes from the dental industry. We're the only mercury industry that's not regulated. If you're in the mercury industry and you make light bulbs, you're regulated. They're watching you don't put mercury out your smokestack. The dental industry is not regulated.
It's not regulated.
Less than 1% of practicing dentists have a mercury separator.
Wow.
This is my passion. This is my work.
Yes.
We are innocent. Mercury's bad. We have a thing on our hands that needs to be dealt with. The awareness that mercury has got to be controlled at the environmental level.
Absolutely. At the environmental level. That's incredible.
And it's Mercury separators are $700. I put my own in when I built my office. It takes 15 minutes.
Really?
A Mercury separator. Yeah. The more you learn about this issue, the more ludicrous it gets.
Yeah.
It's very simple. Very simple. Use protocol to protect yourself, the patient, the dental assistant, and the environment.
Yes.
That's simple.
It's that simple.
Protocol is easy. I can teach a dentist protocol in a 5-minute conversation.
Mm-hmm.
This is not advanced dentistry.
Wow.
This is basic science 101. Take out the mercury out of the water that's coming out of the mouth whenever you're drilling the mercury filling. Take it out of the environment and put a rubber dam on the patient to make sure that the mercury's not in their mouth while you drill it.
Right. And, I'm going to let you explain that, what a person should look for, because so many people have come to me and said, I have had my mercury removed. And I asked them the question, how was it removed? And I would like for you, Dr. Cardellion, to kind of walk through the steps of what a person should look for and who they should go to have it removed.
Who you should go to is, when you're on the internet, you can search Mercury Safe Dentistry, the IAOMT.com, mercuryfreedentist.com. The ones that we join as holistic dentists to market what we do. But you still have to be educated and aware. Nobody defines holistic dentistry. It's just like dentistry. We all do whatever we think is best. Mm-hmm. So what is considered Mercury Safe Protocol, which was set by the group of Mercury dentists over the past 30 years. Rubber dam, not a latex rubber dam, but a nitrile rubber dam. Mercury goes through latex. You can't put a rubber dam on that's going to trap the mercury vapors under the rubber dam.
So the person should definitely ask the dentist if he's using a non-latex. That's really important.
Non-latex
rubber dam.
Here's the big one. Does the doctor have a big mercury vapor protection mask to protect him or herself? Because if they're not wearing a mask, they're not mercury aware.
Oh, my goodness.
They wear the mask. The patient is protected with the rubber dam.
Right.
You must breathe pure oxygen up your nose while you're getting it done, because the mercury vapors will go right up your nose and you're breathing a really, really high level of mercury while you're getting the procedure done.
Oh, my goodness.
So we have forced oxygen up the nose while you're getting them drilled out. And then a really big suction unit that's very close to the mouth.
Yes.
Not the little suction thing that every dentist uses, not the little tube. The big one. This thing is 6 inches in diameter. It's a big, huge vacuum. So it's pulling all the vapors away from the 3 people involved, the dental assistant and the patient.
Right.
This is all of those issues. This is not just a patient issue. Dental assistants are employees that are not protected from this horrific toxin. Every other industry, OSHA will come in and monitor mercury levels. Listen to this statistic. If a level of mercury in the environment goes up 0.06 on a scale, the mercury plant gets shut down, and the mercury detox guys, the guys that clean the environment, come in, and the plant is shut down until the levels come back.
Wow.
In a dental office, every day in a dental office, I practice with a mercury vapor analyzer, a $10,000 piece of equipment that tells me what's the mercury level in my environment.
Okay.
Every day. I never could get and I practice protocol.
Yes.
I couldn't get my levels below 0. And when I drill a silver filling out, when a mercury filling is drilled, it goes up to 2 to 3 to 400 on a scale of 0.06 being toxic for the environment.
Wow.
Numbers aren't close. This is not debatable.
Okay.
A dental operatory where mercury is being drilled is absolutely a dangerous, toxic environment for the employees, dentist.
That is an absolutely amazing.
And not to cut you off again, but we do have a caller. Caller, can you state your name, your question, and where you're calling from? Thank you.
My name is Brenda Petty. I'm calling out of Kansas City, Missouri. And I didn't really have a question. I tuned in to listen, and I am just really in shock. I've never even heard this issue before. I remember as a child, it was very customary. If you had a cavity, they drill a hole and they put a silver, I guess it's a plaque or some type of, I don't know. I guess what I'm learning now is what they were actually installing in little children's mouths was mercury. Because it was silver and it was hardened, and you just assume that, okay, the pain is gone. They took the root out if you had a root canal, and so everything should be hunky-dory. So I guess now I do have questions. I never, I didn't anticipate what the subject matter would be today, but at this point, what are the physical side effects from having this toxic in your system? I mean, if it's in your mouth, it's there 24/7, all the time, forever, until you die. I've never known anyone to say, okay, I'm going to go back and get these fillings taken out of my mouth. And so what physical side effects have been known to occur from having this in your mouth for a long period of time? And you may have already discussed that because I came in on the end of the call. But I agree. What you're saying is absolutely alarming, and for it to be something that has been so common in dentistry and to not be monitored and not to be publicized. I mean, people really, really need to know. So now, I'm going to get up. I'm going to look at my health care, and even my children, even my grandchildren have had these fillings. It is in the filling. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. In the healthcare setting, because I have a clinic and dealing with people every day, and this is why I am so grateful that I have a person who is conscious and someone like Dr. Cardellion to refer the patients to, because I've seen from peripheral vascular diseases where people had severe pains in their hand and feet right after a mercury filling. There's an MS patient, probably her mother is so upset they're going to turn her story into a movie later on, so you'll probably see this later on. But from migraine headaches, to brain fog. There's such a list of things, to poor vision. The person yesterday actually didn't have any problems with his vision or another eye condition that he have now until he had the mercury filling. So they both kind of run pretty bad. But before I will do anything with my patients, I do a CRT testing. And that is a tomography scan, but it's designed and FDA approved for early screening for breast cancer, but it allows me to look at 119 acupuncture points. So, and some of those points are the dental. And when I see something going wrong with the dental, I refer my patients to the holistic dentist. And Dr. Cardellion has been able to see some correlation even there herself. So there's many problems, especially with children and wearing glasses. And even their attention span, they have been doing some studies to find some of the mercury in the colon with some of the colon problems with children. There's just a whole list of problems. And actually, I'm sure there are websites. Are there, Dr. Cardellion?
There are so many websites. And again, this is one of those alarming when you first hear it, and completely acceptable, yes, 2 minutes after you think about it. This is a 100-year-ago conversation we're having right now.
Wow.
There is not a chemical process that happens in the human body that enzymes and minerals and every hormonal pathway, it is completely neurotoxic. Again, let's just go back to, okay, even the World Health Organization, and as much as you would love to think that that's a bunch of really smart, nice doctors, scientists that are sitting around a table to protect us, at that level that there is a ton of corruption and things that they say and do. So let's just agree that when a governing body like that agrees, because they 100 years later absolutely have to, there is no safe level of mercury. I've been a practicing holistic dentist for 20 years,
Yes.
I can't figure out how we are actually alive with mercury fillings. That's the tricky part for me. How are we even compensating and being okay with the mercury fillings in our head?
That's
it doesn't
incredible.
surprise me at all that it affects everything.
Huh.
Everything in the human body is affected by this.
Right.
Isn't
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I mean, I'm going to just be studying this for I don't know how long. Isn't it true that they have mercury in children's immunizations? The only time I've ever heard of this mercury issue is when I talk with a guy, the street minister, just out talking to people, passing out these flyers, talking about the hazard of the toxin mercury and how in some communities they have sprayed the grass with something that has mercury in it, and you walk out on the lawn barefooted, and it goes in through the soles of your feet, and it is indissolvable. You can't ever get it out of your system. And so, in my mind, I'm always thinking, mercury in that context, but now that we're talking about this actually being in your mouth, I mean, I'm looking on my mouth, I have 3 fillings.
Mm-hmm.
And I have suffered with head issues for 20 years. I mean, literally from the time that I had them put in my head. I had mastoiditis of the skull. I had to have my allergies, my adenoids, and they want to take my tonsils out. I mean, just a ton of head issues going on. And
it's amazing because
in my family.
we can actually kind of go on and on with the symptomatology as it relates to mercury. I know I had Dr. Cardellion on before, and we discussed the sinus problems, and it's not in most cases it wasn't a sinus problem, it was a dental problem. I know Dr. Cardellion, we went in depth with that. But in lieu of time, and we do have another guest at 12 o'clock, it's a little after 12, we're going to take a break, and we do have someone on hold.
And we have some emails coming in,
and we have emails also,
Yeah.
But if you could just hold on, please,
Sure.
Debonair Unleashed for me. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to bring in our next guest. So everybody just hold on. Thank you so much. We're so excited here.
That's why I love being on the air with you, Dr. Lee. You're incredible. And everyone, we're back, and you're listening to the Dr. Cherilyn Lee Health Show, and your host, Cherilyn Lee.
And my co-host is Belinda Foster. And thank you so much for joining us with your host, Dr. Cherilyn Lee. And I have a wonderful person who's with us. Dr. Cardellion is still with us here, who is a holistic dentist. And we have with us now a wonderful doctor, Dr. Chris Shade, PhD, who is now going to kind of talk to us about how to start detoxing the body from these heavy metals. But before we start with you, Dr. Shade, and I want to get a little bit more background from you, we're going to, we have someone who's been patiently holding, and that's also Debonair Unleashed.
Hi.
Debonair, thank you so
Yes.
much for joining us.
Oh my God, this is what a wonderful, wonderful show this is. This is such a connection to so many things in society that we need to bring forth. I don't have a lot to say. All I want to say is that I know that there are numerous psychological disorders that go with the teeth and you know, and the mercury and all of that. So we have personality disorders and depression. All of that is kind of connected. So I'm so happy that you guys are actually putting this out, because with all the things that are going on, the gun control and all of this and the children, it connects to all of that. So this is a fabulous, fabulous topic today. I thank you all, Belinda, Dr. Capellino, and Dr. Cherilyn Lee. And now you have Chris on. You're doing a great job, and have a blessed day.
Thank you, Debonair.
Because Dr. Chris Shade is going to give us the plan on how to start detoxing our body from this mercury. Unfortunately, we had no control, you know, as children, and did not know about it, because I didn't know years ago. I've had my mercury removed that I've had from years and years ago by Dr. Cardellion. So I just want to thank you. We have someone else still on hold here, and we're going to do another segment where it goes into the mercury in the vaccinations. I did have a holistic pediatrician on. So continue to listen to the Cherilyn Health Show, because we have wonderful guests every week. So we won't be going deep into the vaccinations and mercury today. But, you know, if you want to continue to listen in, please do. But right now I need to bring Dr. Shade. Can you please just tell us a little bit more about you? Thank you.
Well, I've got a kind of long and winding history. I was originally going to school for sciences. I was into chemistry and environmental science, and I was a little disillusioned with science, and I left school and got into sustainable agriculture. I was an organic farmer up in the Northeast long before it was a big business. This is early 90s. And so I got a pretty holistic understanding of how the environment works and how all these different aspects of the environment have to work together. And then I went back to school and I got a master's degree and a PhD in environmental chemistry, and my PhD focused on environmental metals chemistry, and specifically on environmental mercury chemistry. And at the time, probably the best mercury chemistry was in the environmental realm. We were really good at understanding how different forms of mercury move through the environment, what caused it to go into an organism or not go into an organism, what forms would be more toxic, how they bound to things in the cell versus bound to things that would pull them out of the cell. And while I was there, I developed my analytical technology for looking at different forms of mercury. We patented that, and I left, finished my PhD, some postdoc work, and I went and started my company, Quicksilver Scientific. And originally was focusing more on environmental aspects of mercury, and realized, you know, I always wanted to get back into dealing more with humans and human health, and I realized that in the clinical world of mercury toxicity, people just didn't know enough about the specifics of mercury, different forms, how they act in the body, how the body detoxifies them. And I started really obsessing on that aspect and how to really understand mercury in the body, as much as we can to this point. So for the last 4 or 5 years, this is really where I put my focus: is how does the body respond to mercury, how does it detoxify mercury, and how do the different forms affect it.
Yes, because so many people are big on want to chelate, IV chelation for mercury. I don't do that here. And I have
Right.
calls every day, and I tell people I don't really feel that's the safe way to go. So I'm so glad that we have
Uh,
you on to discuss um, the best ways
and
to.
yeah, and I can give you a little bit of a perspective on IV chelation and how to think about it and how to think about toxicity from a broad perspective. When you look at the IV chelators, they were developed more like DMPS was developed for guys that were working in industrial applications in Russia that were exposed to a tremendous amount of metals. These were otherwise healthy guys that were exposed to really, really high amounts of metals, and it start exerting toxic effects, and they would pull the metals out with the chelators and get these guys back down where they weren't having toxic effects. And that's a very, very different situation than dealing with chronically ill people today. Chronically ill people today are having toxic reactions to metals that are really lower levels than were happening to these blue collar industrial guys in the industrial belts of Russia. And the reason that they're having toxic reactions is because their body isn't working properly against the metals. The detoxification system isn't working properly, and they're accumulating metals, and they're not able to keep them off of the sensitive parts of their cellular machinery. And so just going in and yanking the metals out doesn't change the underlying problem. The underlying problem is one of the detoxification system.
And if you could just say that one more time, because I think a lot of people are not aware. They feel that once they're removed, that they're fine.
Yeah, I mean, going in and chelating metal out of the blood is not fixing the underlying problem. The underlying problem is a failure of your detoxification system. And in fact, even the chelators can't go into the cells and get the metals and pull it out. They're left only stripping from the blood itself. And so until you stimulate your body, and specifically at an intracellular level, until you stimulate the cells to throw the metals out, you haven't changed the problem.
Definitely.
So that's what we're going to focus on today. How do we get the cells to turn up that machinery for throwing the metals out of the cell?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So you want me to just launch into talking about that?
Yes, and we still have Dr. Cardellion here with us, too.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, Dr. Chris.
How are you doing?
I'm fabulous. Let me tell you a quick Chris Shade story from a holistic dentist. When you need Chris as a holistic dentist, he is a phone call away. And as a holistic dentist, you don't know a lot about detox. You're just learning. You have enough to worry about how to take a mercury filling out of the tooth and keep everybody safe and not have to do a root canal. Dr. Chris Shade and his company is leading the change in this industry. What you're going to hear is the natural way the body detoxes. He's got the answer to amp that up, let the body do what it wants to do. He's an amazing, amazing part of this piece.
And thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Dr. Lori.
Thank you. It's a blessing to have you here with us, Dr. Chris.
Thank you.
It's a blessing.
Thank you. So you want me to talk about the detox system?
Most definitely, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So first, to understand it, you have to understand the basic parts of the detox system, and then we're going to talk about basically plant compounds that upregulate or turn up the activity of those parts of the detox system. We'll talk about plant compounds and a variety of other nutraceuticals and amino acids, and then we'll talk about some of the higher strength things that we use in our doctor line. So in order to detoxify properly, and that's two things really, that's being able to get rid of the metals and shuttle them out of your body, but it's also being able to protect your cellular machinery from those metals. And so, again, that goes back to this idea that if you just try to yank some of the metals out of the body with the chelator, you don't necessarily solve the problem. And in fact, a lot of people who do that too much, their body actually becomes more and more sensitive to the metals instead of becoming less sensitive. So in the approach we're talking about, you're going to get rid of the metals faster, and you're going to become less susceptible to the toxic effects as you go. Because there's always going to be metals. There's always going to be other toxins that fit into the same machinery, and we're going to make you less susceptible or more resistant to the toxins. And so what do we need for this? We need high glutathione levels. Glutathione is your antioxidant chemical. We need high activity of enzymes.
I'm sorry, we just have a lot of feedback.
Do you have a way to fix that?
I mean, we have kind of an echo here. But no. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Shade.
Okay, that sounds like we fixed that. Okay, good. Okay, so we said we need high levels of glutathione, and that's your central antioxidant and detoxification protein. We need high activity of an enzyme that picks the metals off the cellular proteins and links them onto the glutathione. It's called glutathione transferase. And then we need high activity of these transporters that shuttle that mercury glutathione conjugate out of the. It's a transporter, so it's like having a bouncer at the door that's going to throw it, going to throw the metal glutathione out of the bar. It's going to throw it out of the cell and into the blood. Out of the bar it goes. It's going to go into the blood. You've got another one at the liver that's going to pull that out of the blood, and then it's going to throw it out of the liver into the bile and into the small intestine. So we need all these things working. So to bring up glutathione levels, you can take precursors to the glutathione, and that would be the amino acid N-acetylcysteine or just L-cysteine. Also, we can use whey protein, which has a lot of cysteine, and it has cysteine bound to another amino acid called glutamate, which brings you that much closer to making glutathione.
Yes.
So those things help us make glutathione. Now, in the professional line, we use direct delivery of glutathione in a liposome. We use liposomal glutathione. And so our company, Quicksilver Scientific, makes a liposomal glutathione that we sell through the doctors. So now we want to get that enzyme up that's going to pick the mercury and other metals like cadmium, arsenic, and lead, pick them off the cellular proteins and link them onto the glutathione. And so to turn up those enzymes, there's a whole bunch of what we think of as superfoods and super detoxifying foods. So a lot of us in naturopathy have heard that, for instance, garlic is good for metal detoxification.
Yes.
Have you heard that, Dr. Lee?
Yes,
right.
I have.
And then some people will erroneously say that it's because it's a sulfur compound and thus it's a chelator. Well, it's not a chelator, but it is a trigger to turn up the expression of this glutathione transferase enzyme and also to turn up the expression of the synthesis of glutathione. So garlic and a number of other sulfur-based vegetables like the crucifer family, that would be everything in the cabbage family, like cabbage, broccoli, bok choy, pak choy. In that family also is wasabi and horseradish. All of these things are really good at turning up expression of all these chemoprotective genes, all these things that make detoxifying chemicals in your cells.
That is correct to know.
Go ahead.
We've
got the, what's that?
No, I said thank you. That is great to know, and I really want you to repeat that again so our listeners can make some notes there.
Everything in the cabbage family.
Yes.
Things like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage. More color, the better generally. Stronger flavor, the better generally. Then garlic, horseradish, and wasabi. All of those turn up the expression of your cellular protection. Now, important in this is that you can't cut broccoli into big pieces and then cook it and get that benefit. This stuff has to be raw, or it has to be finely cut before it's cooked. Now, my favorite way to do, very important, because it's just like getting the antibacterial effect of garlic. You need two things to mix when you crush it. Same thing, you need two chemicals to mix in the broccoli to get this effect. Now, my favorite way of doing this by far is through fermentation, lacto-fermentation of vegetables, making sauerkraut or kimchi. This is very easy to do. You get about a quart of these chopped up vegetables. Right. You put a tablespoon of salt on there and just let that stuff sit. It's going to turn into kimchi or sauerkraut. And that's going to make all of the probiotic bacteria, as well as really expressing all of these detoxification benefits of these vegetables. And see, this is another big, big part of what dental amalgam does to you. And I'm shifting directions for a second, but I'm going to come back to detoxification. But this is the immune system. And when all of that mercury is going down your throat, you're swallowing all these corrosion products of the amalgams. It's going into your gut. And you're not necessarily absorbing a lot of that mercury, but that mercury is changing the nature of your intestines. And as you know, most of your immunity is in your intestines. And what this mercury does is it shifts the nature of your immune system away from killing the bad guys, killing the parasites, killing the candida, and it shifts you towards being allergic to the foods that are coming in. It's called a Th1, Th2 shift, and it makes you more hyper-reactive to food. You have more and more food allergies, yet at the same time you have more candida, you have more parasites, you have more bad amoebas, you've got viruses in your body. And that's what mercury is doing to you. And so the way to shift that back is the probiotics. The probiotic bacteria help normalize your immune system in the gut. Another great way to do that are the medicinal mushrooms. So when we culture our vegetables, we're establishing a good flora of bacteria in the gut that normalize that immune system. It doesn't let all the bad viruses and bacteria and funguses live in you anymore. And at the same time, we're getting the great plant chemicals that are stimulating our detoxification. All right, so we talked about all these sulfur-based vegetables that do this. Another sulfur-based chemical that's in our nutraceutical regimen is lipoic acid. And so people have heard that lipoic acid is a strong antioxidant, but a lot of its action is because it stimulates the expression of the chemoprotective genes in the cell. And the form of lipoic acid that really does that the best is called R-lipoic acid.
Yes.
Very powerful because there's actually a protein outside of our nucleus that goes into our nucleus and tells the genes tells the nucleus to turn on all the chemoprotective genes all at once. These are all the detoxification genes. So R-lipoic acid does this. The sulfur chemicals in the crucifer and garlic family do this for us. And one other group of plant compounds that do this are called polyphenolic antioxidants. The most well-known of the polyphenolic antioxidants right now is probably green tea extract. But in the same family, we have grapeseed extract, grape skin extract, grape juice extract. We have pine bark extract. Some of these new superfruits like acai and mangosteen and noni have a lot of polyphenols in them. And then we in our professional, Quicksilver Scientific's professional brand, we use a lot of Ayurvedic polyphenols. We use one called Haritaki. We also use, the other probably best known polyphenolic is pomegranate extract. So we use these Ayurvedics. We use Harataki, Gatukola, and Bacopa. Gatukola and Bacopa are for brain detoxification. The Harataki is a full-body detoxification. Then we use pomegranate and pine bark extract, as well as the R-lipoic acid. We also have R-lipoic acid in a liposome with vitamin C. So you can see that there's a broad spectrum that we can take from the plant-based, from the plant-based chemicals and from the nutraceuticals to really engage our body to turn up its expression of its own detoxification, start throwing this stuff out of the body. So we talked about building glutathione. We talked about building the expression of these detoxification chemicals in the cells. We talked about how culturing vegetables can help our intestines. And then that last part we got to talk about is opening up all this transport down to the intestines and making sure that you don't reabsorb these metals and toxins once they get down there. And so this last aspect are called intestinal binders. These are things that go through the intestine. You're not absorbing them as nutrients. They're acting to mop up all the trash in the intestines and make sure you get it out. Because if you don't get it out, one, you either reabsorb it and retoxify yourself, or two, it's causing an alteration of the environment in your gut that is causing inflammatory states, and inflammatory states stop the transport proteins from bringing things down into your gut. So you can see how, one, the mercury you're swallowing from your amalgams, it's going through the gut, it's irritating the gut, it's building up in there, it's stopping the transport of more metals down to the gut. And any dysbiosis is also creating these inflammatory states that's stopping your detoxification. So working from the intestines is so important. So now to talk about what are the things we can use for intestinal binders. In our professional line, we have a supercharged one called IND, or intestinal benzyl detox. And these are silica particles that are saturated with the right kind of sulfur to bind up all the metals and pull them away from the gut. But there are a lot of other things besides the IND that work. Chlorella is probably the best known of them, and chlorella has a good activity on metals. It also works on a lot of biological toxins. So it's important when we're looking at a very sick person that we don't get too focused just on the mercury, because as I've alluded to several times here, the person's immune system is off. There's a dysbiotic situation in the intestines where the bad guys are growing in there. There's almost always some degree of leaky gut where the bad production of different toxins in the gut is being leaked into the intestines. And often because the immune system's off, the body has a number of different chronic infections in it. Dr. Cardellion may have talked about root canals and cavitations, which are areas of rotten pockets in the jaw, and these create a lot of toxins. We also have Lyme disease, Babesia, Bartonella. There's systemic candida. There's infections that can be in the sinus. And all of these poison you with the toxins. And the toxins they make have to be taken down to the gut, and you have to make sure you don't absorb them. So to really get someone better, I like a broad spectrum of gut-based binders. So the IMD is very good for the metals, but we look at clay and zeolite. These are very broad spectrum. Bentonite is probably one of my favorite broad spectrum binders. Activated carbon, charcoal, very broad spectrum. It's pulling in a lot of different toxins from the bacteria in your gut. It's making sure it picks up the toxins that are coming down into the intestines. The chlorella has a pretty broad spectrum. It's pretty good on metals. It's pretty good on biological toxins. There's one called chitosan, which people think about as a fat binder, but really it's binding toxins coming out of the bile and binding bile salts so you don't absorb the fat.
This
So
is
I like
very good.
the use
I don't
of-
want to cut you off, but we just got
Yep.
notification. We're down to probably our last minute almost. And
I
we
know,
do
I've
have
been
a
calling.
caller. We do have a caller, and Dr. Chris Shade and Dr. Cardellion, we're going to have to bring you. I'm going to have to bring you back again. But we do have a caller. Can you state your question very quickly here, caller?
Yes, I can.
And your name and where you're calling from.
I'm Denise, and I'm calling from Las Vegas.
Thank you for joining us here today, Denise.
Hi, how are you?
I'm blessed. So
Good,
good to
thanks.
hear your voice.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to know, I had an apical done in 2007, and within doing that, I picked up osteomyelitis, and to this day, it is still swelling and painful. I've been to every oral surgeon here practically in Las Vegas, and also multitude of dentists, and they send me around in circles. I can't get an answer.
Let me take that one real quick.
Okay.
I can answer that one real quick. This is Dr. Cardellion. So we just jumped into the second phase of holistic dentistry, infection, bone, root canals. So go to my website, VenturaHolisticDentistry.com, VenturaHolisticDentistry.com, and call me directly, and I'll give you that answer.
Okay.
And I just want everybody to know that interview, what you're hearing with Chris Shade, it's so much. He has an interview on Mercola.com. Just go to Mercola.com. Most of you probably know that, and you can hear this thing that Chris Shade was just talking about. That interview's on there, and it's an amazing amount of information.
It is, and actually, we're going to be bringing you back here with myself, Dr. Cherilyn Lee, and my co-host Belinda Foster. We're definitely going to be bringing you back, Dr. Shade. It's
very good. It was great being here to talk to you.
It's just wonderful, and please give her a call if you did not receive the number clear, Denise. Give me a call, and I'll give you her direct number. You can give me a call here at the clinic at 310-419-4300, and I'll forward you all the numbers that you need for Dr. Cardellion.
Thank you very much, and very informative, beautiful, nice show.
And I have always told you there was help. You're just going to have to take a day to fly in from Vegas and come up here so you can meet with her.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And in lieu of the fact of time, this has been a wonderful, wonderful show with so much information. I'm sure my co-hosts can agree.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we're going to have to do this again because we didn't get around to a lot of emails that we received today, too.
We actually got about 25 emails. Can you believe that?
So
25.
we're going to have to do this again.
Yeah.
So in closing the show, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today to the Cherilyn Lee Health Show with my co-host, Belinda Foster, and myself, Dr. Cherilyn Lee. And as I always end the show, please repeat after me. I am so grateful.
So grateful.
So grateful.
That I am
I am
a magnet for miracles. And I just want to say, Dr. Shade, you're going to be in the city here, I understand, doing a seminar this weekend. I was just...
Yeah, actually, we are going to be training doctors on a number of the different systems that we use. If the doctors are interested, go to renewamedical.com, and right on the home page,
what I'm
there's
going
a
to do,
sign up
because we're
for the
out of
training.
time here. I don't mean to cut you off, but we are out of time. If they give me a call at the clinic, I'll get the information from you, and I will forward it on. They can call me here at 310-419-4300. Thank you so much. Everyone have a wonderful and blessed day.
Thank you.